Hello, this is Geralyn St. Joseph, and we're here today for Intro to Your Intuition. The reason why I say intro with the capital I-N is because intuition is within. It's something that we're looking at that we have inside of ourselves. It is a skill and ability that, yes, can be honed, but just like our ability to taste, see, smell, hear, and such, these are things that are in us that simply need to be explored and expanded upon. So as we go on, I'll be talking about a lot of different things. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. The actual course of exploring your intuition is going to be done with modules of 4 pods a piece, where we're going to be discussing different things like all the clairs. We're going to go into different types of reading. We're going to look at all the different things that make up the, I shouldn't say all, as many as I know. I've been doing this professionally since 1994. I have a lot of different things that I've done and different people that I've worked with. So hopefully you will find this very enlightening. Let's begin. So when we talk about intuition, some people don't like to think that intuition is the same as psychic ability. I myself feel that they're basically the same thing. People don't like to say psychic because there's this whole energetic around it that people have created, like psychic is something that's really out there and it's really special, and maybe it's something that doesn't exist. People always think that psychics can read minds and things like that. And that's not really the way it works. I know there are certain people that I can connect with to a point where we finish each other's sentences, but those are very special connections. It's not like you walk up to someone on the street and say, like, I know what you're thinking, unless you can see it on their face, you know. You can hone your psychic abilities or your intuition in many different ways. But like any other muscle, it's something that needs to be practiced. It's something that you need to be aware of and actually pay attention to in order to nurture it. There's all different kinds of things we can do. People work with sage sticks. You could do this with rosemary also, and it's called smudging. This is a clearing essential. Probably one of the most common things that people use when they're developing their psychic abilities are crystals. Clear quartz crystal is most common. There's masculine and feminine quartz, depending on what you want to do with it. Then you have these cool kinds of quartz. This is called I want to say a phantom quartz, but I don't know if that's actually the correct name. I just got this one. I haven't used it very often, but this is an excellent healing crystal. You have crystals in different shapes, like the Merkaba. The Merkaba is a very powerful shape, and it's one that we will talk about in a little bit. Everybody loves hearts. Different shapes do bring out different strengths in the crystal at times. Like a heart shape is softer than a Merkaba. A Merkaba is more useful if you're using the energy to do something that is very specific and you're outgoing. A heart is more healing, it's more interior, and it's also a softer energy. Everyone is familiar with the pyramid. Powerful shape, it amplifies energy. Then we have the egg. And some people use the egg to mimic their own energy field. So it would give you a source of something to look at that you can project yourself into to create your own auric field and to strengthen it. You would use an egg type shape. Some people just like eggs. Also, eggs look very fragile, but in truth, an egg is not as fragile as you think it is. I used to live with my uncle in Colorado, and we had cougars, like actual cougars. And I also raised chickens. So the chickens, I would take an egg and I roll it into the pens for each of the cougars, and they would play with that egg all day, batting it around, moving around, tossing it up in the air and catching it and doing all kinds of things with it that you're like, that's an egg. And then when they were done with it, they knew exactly where to hit it to break it. So an egg as a structure actually is a fairly strong structure and has only very specific areas where it then becomes breakable and more fragile. I like working with stones in their natural form. I find that when a stone is uncut and not shaped by human hands, I find that raw energy is more, I want to say almost pliable. You could do more with it than when it's cut by a human. Then it becomes like a very specific shape. Even if it's just a tumbled stone, you don't have all the intricacy that you do on a raw stone. That's not to say that you should never use tumble stones or anything like that. Even if it's cut, just be aware that once they're cut, that then the energy is moved in a specific way. So like when you have a point, the energy generally comes through that point. So that is the projective part of the stone. And yes, I'm going through these things really quick because then we're going to go back and talk about things. Then you have, when you're talking about crystals and different things, which I teach a crystal class every second Saturday, you have things like this. You could see the, right there, it looks like a little doorway. It's called a window. For some reason, when I select stones, they often have those little windows. A lot of times I don't even notice it before I buy it. And then I bring it home like, oh, look, there's a window. And those windows are very useful to, again, project into the stone and be able to utilize the energy in a very specific way. And it also allows you to use the energetic of the stone more efficiently as you do different tasks. Okay. Let's see. Everybody is aware of the crystal ball. Maybe my crystal ball was a little too powerful for my setup here. What I have here is a rainbow. What is going on? Okay, I'm going to hold it back here. Most people are familiar with the crystal ball because in the movies and when people are doing, it's called scrying, when you use a crystal ball or you use a black, it's like a black mirror, which is made of obsidian. So the obsidian is highly reflective. This is rainbow obsidian, which means that there are eyes in the crystal. When you look at it in the sunlight, on either side, there are different things. So on the one side, it's like a purple, it's round, it's purple, and then there's different colors going around it. On the other side, it looks almost like the sky. Unfortunately, I can't show you that on here because there's no way to get the light to hit it just so, and it is best in sunlight. But when people are using a crystal ball, or some people use a mirror, a black mirror, it's called scrying. And what scrying is you focus on something and you allow your energetic to open up, and then you'll start to, some people see things and you start to get images and you see things in that surface. Some people use, you could use water and like drip things into the water, and there's all kinds of different ways to do that. So we will be talking about that later in the class. And as we keep going on, you also have sound. I love this one. It reminds me of church. I was raised Catholic, and this reminds me of the church. So a lot of people will utilize crystal bowls. Some of them are made of the same material as this, which would be like a brass. Some of them have some copper in them. They're all different. And what makes the difference in what they do is the tone and the way it sounds. Then you have crystal bowls and you have the metal bowls. So here's crystal. You can also use bells. The bowls will sustain the sound for a lot longer. The bells are good for like changing the frequency quickly and then allowing it to move down. Then we have sound through things like this. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but you use this kind of a device and you would use it for its vibration and for its sound. The sound is very cleansing, so you would use it around you. And there are different ways and different types of tuning forks, as they're called, that have different frequencies and thus do different jobs. And last but not least, the most commonly known is a tarot deck. So you have things like the tarot, which is done in like a million different ways. There are so many different types of tarot decks, I can't even begin to tell you. Then there are things called oracles. Now, an oracle can be a deck, which could be any number of cards, as opposed to a tarot, which follows a sequence of 78 cards, unless they were done in the year 2000. I've seen a few that were done in the year 2000 where they added a card to make it 79 cards. That didn't seem to take off. Some people wanted to start a trend of having 79 cards on any that started after the year 2000. I've only seen it for like 2 decks and then I never saw it again. So apparently that didn't go over very well. With an oracle, they generally will select a theme, and they'll utilize that theme in order to do readings. And that theme could be anything. You can make an oracle out of anything. The other type of oracle is, it's called bibliography, I think is the way it's pronounced. And basically what that is taking a book, thumbing through it, and then just opening up to a page and reading the first thing your eyes fall on. That is a type of oracle. Also, there are some books that are specifically written for this use and will have like different sayings on each page or different meanings and different things like that, so that you'd be getting something that's a little more in depth. But in truth, this could be used with any book. You flip through it, your subconscious will see much more than your conscious sees, and then you'll be directed to open to a certain area. And when you read that, it often will give you like a hint or a clue into whatever it was that you were wondering about, or help you think in a different direction. So what are things that we could use our intuition for? Our intuition is great for survival, first and foremost. It helps us in relationship. It helps us navigate the world. And it also helps us discover our interior world. And it helps us to really get to know our physical and energetic bodies much more deeply than we're led to believe in our modern world, where we're constantly looking outside. Google it. Just Google it. You'll find out whatever you need. Look for it on the internet. Go ask your uncle. Go ask this person. Go ask that person. When so many times, especially when we're dealing with emotion and vibration, we need to go within first and foremost. So when our interior is all over the place and constantly going out for information and constantly going out to see what's out there, we never get a sense of what's going on in here. And that's how many people, like, you could have very high blood pressure and not realize it. You could have all different kinds of dis-ease and not realize that it's there, because we just like, oh, that's not a big deal. Oh, that's not really happening. Oh, I'm not going to pay attention to that. And that is a very big disservice to ourselves, our souls, and our physical bodies. we were given intuition so that we could navigate this world in all its layers effectively. So as we build our intuition, what we find is more and more coincidence or synchronicities. You may be talking to somebody, like different things that have come up a lot in the last couple of weeks that I've seen, like in really odd places. Boundaries and not self-destruction, but self-sabotage. For whatever reason, it's every time I turn around, there's something about that. And I find that I'm getting a lot of clients who need that information. So last week or so, I put out a video on YouTube about boundaries. What are boundaries? Why are they important? How do you make them? Because that is very important. And the thing is, if you know yourself and you know your own internal mechanisms, it's easier to set boundaries because you can feel where they need to be. There are some people that you could just be comfortable with and roll with, where like really hard set boundaries are not as important as other people who will push and push and push, and next thing you know, there's none of you and it's all of them. So learning about your intuition means learning about you and who you are and what you're meant to be and how you're supposed to show up in the world. So intuition comes in many different forms. The first and most basic form is the gut instinct. Most people have heard this term, and when we're talking about it, we're usually talking about the solar plexus. So where are the solar plexus? They're right here. So here's my ribs, and the solar plexus are right there. Your solar plexus are a core chakra point. They are usually yellow, sometimes depicted as gold. If the solar plexus are not working properly, it shows up as low self-esteem, self-doubt, problems with communication, like people don't understand what you're saying or you don't understand what they're saying, problems with tapping into spirit, and that's if you're already familiar with what that feels like. So the solar plexus are very, very important. I call that the seat of your intuition. I know that other practitioners will tell you that the throat is part of that. The throat and the solar plexus are connected in a lot of ways. I feel it's easier for a person to judge by their solar plexus because the top of the throat and the top of the lungs, the chest there, that is where your emotion is. So this may be reacting when your solar plexus are not. So the solar plexus, to me, are more important. At this juncture, I would like to say that I am by no means the ultimate expert on all this. What I teach and what I show you is all from my experiences. I'm a natural born. I have been reading other people and helping other people since I was in grade school. So these are all things that I've learned along the way. You may meet someone who has a different opinion, and that's fine. What I would say to you is you explore different avenues. You pick one that feels comfortable, and if that person feels trustworthy and comfortable to you, you always go in with an open mind and a little bit of skepticism so that you're not completely falling into somebody else's energy wave, because you have your own. I always tell my clients, if I'm feeling something and they're getting a hit like, that's not quite right, follow your intuition, and we'll even go into that. Like, what are you feeling? Let's explore this. Let's see how this coincides. Maybe I'm being misdirected. Maybe you're being misdirected, but let's discover how we can do this. So it's extremely important for each of us to really get a grip on our own intuition and our own guidance so that we can maneuver through the world without fear, I guess is the best way to say it. So I believe it's the solar plexus. When you're considering something, if you are trying to make a decision, say you're trying to decide between two jobs, you want to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and imagine yourself. I always do 6 months from now, because with jobs, like in the beginning, it could be really great. And then usually within 6 months to a year is when you find out that the company really isn't about what you thought it was about. Or maybe the people who are really cool to you in the beginning aren't so cool now. So I always go 6 months out, even whether it's a move or whatever the person is trying to decide. So imagine yourself 6 months out being in that position. Feel your body. What does your body feel like? Do you feel tense? Do you feel open? Do you feel happy? Do you feel excited? Do you feel anxious? And anxious and excited in the body are the same emotion. It's how we interpret those. They have all the same markers so far as like speeding up the heartbeat, adrenaline pumping, things like that. So you need to know your body to know the difference. And if you feel your solar plexus will do one of three things. It either opens up and you feel like you're moving forward, it gets real tight and feels like it's pulling you back. That's a danger signal. Or it just sits there. It's like, okay. If it just sits there, it means it's your decision. It can work one way or the other. It really doesn't matter. So that's how you read your solar plexus. Another thing that can help you discern what you're feeling or what you're getting is to really learn how to quiet your body down. And notice I say your body and not your mind, because our minds will keep going. And the more we say, shut up, shut up, shut up, the more it talks and talks and talks. It's like a little kid who wants your attention when you're on the phone. So the more we focus on it, the bigger it's going to get. So what you want to do is calm your body down. And once you get your body calmed down, it's easier to sense and feel what's going on and to get a better idea of what's happening. This is not always easy because of the circumstances around you. You know, it could be, things could be happening that are just very, very chaotic. And if that is what's happening, you need to be able to pull back from that and have your own bubble, your own safety bubble. So I want everybody to take a second and just, you know, sit up, make sure your back's straight or curved the way it's supposed to be curved. And take a deep breath. We're going to take a deep breath in. We're going to hold it, and then we're going to breathe out really slowly. So the reason for doing this is because when you do that, you trigger your body to start to calm down. If you do that for 3 to 5 breaths, you will feel a marked difference in your physical body, in the stress level. So take a deep breath, hold it, and release. And one more time. And release. So you can do this. Some people do it by counting. They count like 5 in, 1, 2, hold, and then 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, releasing. I prefer not to use the numbers because to me that makes me like focus on something else. I want to focus on my body. So it's up to you, whichever way you find works for you. Deep breathing also oxygenates the body and the brain, which helps you to calm down. The key is breathing out more slowly than you're breathing in, because it really does slow down your rhythm and it helps you to center. You can do that almost regardless of what situation you're in. I mean, if you're underwater or something, can't do that. But in most situations, you can do that. I don't like to say always or never, because absolutes, there will be times when that's something for people to pick apart. That's also something for people to start saying, well, is it really always? And how do we know it's always? And then you go off into this rabbit hole that you don't need to be going into. It's a waste of time and energy. So one of the other tools I love to use, because it's easy, is called a pendulum. Now this pendulum is actually Chelsea's pendulum, but I like it, so I'm using it. This pendulum shows the 7 core chakras. And the reason why I keep saying core chakras is because we're taught about the 7 core chakras that are aligned with the physical body. There are many, many more. There's even more chakras in the body. So as you get familiar with these core chakras, then you'll learn about the complexes. Like there's a heart complex, there's a throat complex, there's the intuition or the higher self complex. And these different sections of the body do different things. These different energetics do different things. And as we move along, I'll go through and I'll explain them very quickly. But that's why I keep saying core instead of just saying the chakra system, because this is not the whole system. This is just your core. Okay, so a pendulum can be anything. I have taken off necklaces and used them. I've used a pin. We've used a fishing, I think it's called a plum. It's a big, heavy brass thing. A friend of mine used to like to experiment when I was in Hawaii, and we used to try all different kinds of things. But just about anything can be used as a pendulum as long as you can create balance. So if you have something that's really off center, it's harder to use. Like you'd have to really be someone who is very progressed in this to be able to get it to speak to you in the way that you need it to speak to you. There's 2 different philosophies on the pendulum, and there's several different ways to read it. So the one philosophy is that, oh, the pendulum is just, it's micro movements that you're doing, and it's just taking from your subconscious and reacting to things. Could be, except if I'm using a pendulum to read someone else and I don't know what the answer is, I have no idea what the answer is, and it's answering me for them and giving them the correct information, then that has nothing to do with my subconscious. The other is that, and this is the way I use it, is I will call in a guardian or guide. My favorite is Gabriel. I'll call in Gabe and be like, Gabe, are you willing to answer some questions right now? And he'll tell me yes. Sometimes he will say no. He's like, no, you don't need to know about that. And I do yes is this way, because that makes sense to me. No is this way, because that makes sense to me. And it makes a circle if it's like yes, but, or no, but. It's like, meh, kinda. Or you're crazy. Depending on how Spirit's feeling that day. So when you have a pendulum, it's always good to know who or what you're talking to. And it's also important that you have a sense of like how you want it to work. So like what I do is I'll say, now I work with Gabriel all the time, so I don't need to do this anymore. When I first started working with a pendulum, I would say yes, no, maybe. And then I would stop it. Now I don't have to do that because we have our language set up and I know I'm working with Gabriel. So you ask questions that you know the answer to make sure that it is correct. So I would say something like, Yvonne has blue eyes. See what we're getting? We're getting no. All right, all right. It doesn't have to be that emphatic. Stop the pendulum, please. Thank you. Always be grateful. Always say thank you. It's best to be polite. Things work better that way. Yvonne is a beautiful woman. Ah, Yvonne, you're beautiful. Stop the pendulum, please. Thank you. So another way to use the pendulum, besides just asking yes and no questions, is to utilize it for energy fields. And when I do the actual course, the full course, we'll be going through this like in depth and practicing with our pendulums and things like that. But you do energy fields. So you can do, you can look at stones. Like there have been times where I will purchase a gemstone. I have no idea what it is. Or I might have some idea, but I'm not really sure. So I will ask the gemstone what it is. And I'll say, you know, are you calcite? Are you feldspar? Are you tourmaline? Like whatever I think it is. And then we might, you know, are you agate? And then we'll break it down to what kind of agate or whatever. And it will tell me whether or not I am correct. That's a good way to know what kind of gemstones you have. Another thing I do with it is I have different sets of stones that I use for different types of healing and readings. So like these stones represent the 7 core chakras. And I can lay them out the way the chakra system is, and I could put the pendulum over each of them and ask me, show me what the energy field looks like of each of these chakras in me or in Michael or in somebody else. And that way I can do it for the person. They don't have to be in my presence. The stone will act as them. And then you ask it, like here's the root. The way the chakra system works is the energy supposedly goes up like that. What I have found is that not everybody's energy system works exactly the same. So some people say, you know, like the root's supposed to be going counterclockwise, or it's supposed to be going I can't remember that stuff. I am dyslexic. That will not happen. It'll be a very bad thing if I try to remember all that. So I do this. Whoever I'm reading, Michael, is it all right if we use you? So I'll say, show me what Michael's root chakra would look like if it's healthy, when it's most healthy. All right, so it's going clockwise, right? Stop the pendulum, please. And then either I could use the stone underneath it and say this is his current chakra, or I could just do it in the air. I prefer using the stones. I find it that it helps me keep things in focus, and it also adds that energetic to it. Okay, show me Michael's root chakra now. Nice. Michael's root looks healthy. Stop the pendulum, please. Thank you. So what you would do is you would go up the chakra system and see if anything, sometimes they're completely closed, sometimes they're going in the wrong direction. There's different things that happen with them that then you can clear them using a pendulum. Or you may want to use another method of clearing. But we can get into all of that as we do the different lessons. So intuition isn't always about reading per se, like a psychic reading you. Your intuition acts as an early warning system. The way I describe it is the mind can see what's right in front of it. It can see only what is presented to it. The emotions are all about chemistry. It's what you feel. You could be terrified of something. It doesn't mean that you need to be terrified of it. It could be just something from the past is triggering you. But your intuition is like you're stuck in traffic. Your brain can only see what's in front of you. You know you're frustrated because you're not going where you want to go. But your intuition is the helicopter in the sky telling you what's in front of you and telling you what you need to look out for. Get into the left-hand lane, that'll go past the accident. Or you don't want to move forward because something's going on up there that you don't want to be a part of. Whatever information you get from your intuition generally has more clarity and more information than by other means. So people ask me, how do I know it's my intuition talking? My first, again, is you go to the solar plexus. Your solar plexus speak to you. When we're talking in a broader sense, when we're talking about the clairs, clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, and such, we're talking about heightened senses. So you're talking about heightened hearing, where you can hear different vibrations that are not in the usual audible sound. When you're talking about clairvoyance, you're talking about being able to see with your third eye, or your fifth eye, or your fourth eye. But being able to see from a different viewpoint, from a different angle. So it's about clarity of sight. And each of the senses, there is a clair for. So you can pick up information by touching something and feeling its vibration. You can get information from something. You might smell things that other people don't smell. Little caveat there, make sure you check your medication and that it's not a side effect of your medication, because that does happen. But sometimes you'll get a whiff of, like, when my grandmother's around, I smell Gina Tay, because she wore that all the time, and like that's her signature scent. So any of us in the family, all of a sudden we start smelling Gina Tay, we're like, oh, Nanny's here. She come to visit. My aunt always smelled like cigarettes and double mint gum. That's how we know she's around. So some entities or energetics will present themselves as a scent. Sometimes you'll get a scent that triggers a memory that will give you whatever it is that you're supposed to know, or you're supposed to see, or to tell your client, however you're going to use it. You may feel, when you're looking at someone else, you might feel like a tightness in your body, or maybe a pain in your chest, or something like that, where you're picking up whatever it is that is going on with them energetically, but you're picking it up physically. So now that's something that, especially if you're empathic, is something that you need to be aware of, because then we take it and we're like, why do I have this headache? Oh, this headache. And it's not my headache, it's somebody else's headache. But if you own it, if you ask yourself, why is this happening? Your mind will try to give you a why. This is happening because you didn't sleep enough. It's happening because whatever. Don't ask why. That is the wrong question. You're already setting up the answer if you ask why. The question is this mine? With all of that, with whether it's an emotion coming through or it's a physical feeling, especially if it feels weird and it comes on all of a sudden, first question, is this mine? And if you say, is this mine, then all of a sudden it goes away, obviously it wasn't yours. Sometimes you get a no, this is not yours. And if you get a no, or a feeling of like being pushed, then you know that's not yours. So you need to say, thank you for letting me know, but you can go now. I don't need to feel it. Thanks. Because you don't need to take on what belongs to someone else. That is unnecessary. So let's talk about empathy for a second. We talk about empaths all the time. That seems to be very, very popular right now. And there's a good reason for it. We all need empathy. What is empathy? Empathy is being able to, I'm going to say, mimic or reflect the emotions of people or animals that are in front of you. Science has discovered what part of the brain empathy rests in. Like, they know they can find it. And they have discovered, as time has gone on and they've tested more and more, that most mammals have this. As far as we know, all mammals have it. They also believe it's possible that birds have it. And they haven't looked at reptilians or anything like that at this point that I know of. So empathy is something that's there so that you can share community. Now, what's the difference between having empathy and being an empath? Like all the other senses, it's just that to the nth degree. Because then what happens is, I don't need to be near somebody. I don't need to see them. I don't need to hear their story. I know. All I need is to hear their name and I can feel what they're feeling. Or maybe you're close to somebody. For instance, my father and I are very close. So from when I was a kid, if he was at work and something would happen, he would get sick or something, I would know he was coming home because I could feel him. By the same token, when I moved out to Lancaster and he was still living in Philadelphia, if I was upset about something, my father would call, what's wrong? Don't tell me everything's okay, because I know it's not. And there's nothing I could do to get around that. So you do have certain people in your lives that you can have that type of connection with. Empathy is very important. To be empathic also means to some people that when you're out in crowds, you just feel inundated with all this energy. And because of that, you would need to learn how to filter that. So there's different things you might do. You may want to shield. You can shield yourself, you can block it, you can send it back, you can filter it. I find that when you're shielding, oftentimes you're not just shielding things from coming in, but you're also shielding things from coming out. And you're shielding yourself from everything. So if there's a danger signal and you don't know how to do this properly, you're blocking everything. So you're not going to feel that either. So to filter is better. You learn how to filter, and then you can sense it and send it back, and sense it and send it back. And you decide what can come through. Like, I don't need to feel those guys arguing over there. That's a lover's spat. I don't need to feel this mom just lost her 3-year-old because he's hiding in the clothes rack, you know. But I can know that that's happening. I can have an awareness of it happening around me. But if somebody just walked in with a gun or something, I want to be aware of that. I want my psychic senses, my intuition to, you know, sound the alarm so I can get out. And sometimes the alarm will be sounded and you'll have no idea what it's about. But I can tell you from experience, if that alarm is going off, if you have calmed yourself and you're still feeling this alarm, and it's not that you're just having PTSD or anxiety or something like that, because some people are very high strung to begin with, then you need to listen to that. I'll tell you a story. When I was younger, before I was doing a little bit of reading and stuff, but I didn't really practice a lot of what I practice now. I was working at a video club. Remember those things where you actually used to rent the videos and they weren't just streamed into your house before the internet? I feel so old. So anyway, so I'm working at this video club. I have been there like 2.5 years, never, ever missed a day of work. I mean, I actually walked to work in a snowstorm when we got 2.5 feet of snow, and I was the only person who showed up. Like, I was like committed. I have that kind of a work ethic. So I go to work all the time. And this one day, I just woke up, I'm like, I don't think I should go to work today. And my mom's like, well, why? I said, I don't know. I just feel like I shouldn't go to work I have a bad feeling about it. So she's like, well, call out. Which, I mean, most people are not going to tell you just, oh, follow your intuition, just do that. But my mom's like, call out then. I call out. They got robbed at gunpoint that night. So the girl who took my place wanted to kill me. I mean, she was so mad. You knew something was going to happen. Why didn't you? I'm like, I didn't know anything. I didn't know. I just knew that I didn't want to come in. So that is one of the things that if I had not followed my instinct, there was a possibility that I would have been the one who was there. I may have reacted differently. I could have been shot. Something could have happened. But Spirit took me out of that position because Spirit was like, you're not supposed to be there. Don't go. So I wasn't there. So I didn't have that experience. Thank you, Spirit, right? So things like that. Yeah, it can be very overwhelming in crowds. And then I'm sure everybody knows you have that friend or that coworker who when they come and talk to you, you're like, you know, when they leave, you're just like, so I just need to take a nap now. So that's an energy vampire type. Most energy vampires don't realize that they're doing it. Especially a lot of times that person will be like, oh, I feel so good after they talk to you. You know, you're like, yeah, because you just sucked the life right out of me. So you just need to be aware of that and aware of who takes, who gives, how you feel around different people. Some people are better to be around than others. When you're around that kind of a person, you really need to learn how to cut off the flow. Or the other way to deal with that is to stream so much energy to them that you remain full and they get overloaded and they leave you alone. They walk away. Oh yeah, most of us have people in our family who are like that too. I used to do readings. I would go to Lancaster County and be at a spa, and we would do psychic facials, which was awesome. It was a huge hit. I would do like 18 people in a day. You'd get a half an hour facial and a half an hour reading. And there was this one woman who would come, and after I would read her, I would be like, my eyes would be rolling in my head. I just couldn't function afterwards. So if she came in the middle of the day, I had a real problem finishing the day. So once I figured that out, it happened to me twice. The third time, I'm like, if this woman schedules, you schedule her at the end of the day. Because what happens to me is if I do a lot of readings and I'm, flowing energy a lot, I don't go right to sleep. Like I don't get tired. It revs me up. I get even more, yay, I'm bouncing off the walls. So in order to sleep, having that lady in last, because she took all that excess energy, was awesome because then I can go to bed. So you just have to know how to deal with it and try to utilize it for your benefit so that it's a mutually beneficial coming together or relationship. So let's see, what else did we want to do today? So that's part of it. So that's empathy. That's being empathic or empathetic. Again, that's something everyone has, but some people have it to the nth degree. Now, I shouldn't say everyone has, most people have. Now, there are certain people who are born with malfunctions in their brain for the empathy part of it that need to learn how to mirror emotions and things like that because they're really not feeling it. And that's okay. That's the way they were born. That's okay. You need to start from where you are. So I have an interesting question for everyone. When you close your eyes, I want everybody to close your eyes. I'm going to say, think about Elvis Presley. Are some of you too young to know Elvis Presley? I think you're okay. Think about Elvis Presley or a great singer you like. Now, in the chat, let me know, did you see an image of Elvis Presley? Did you hear him? Did you smell him? Did you feel him? In what way was this representative when I tell you to imagine this? Was it a word? Did you see his name, Elvis Presley? Like, what did you see? A lot of people will get an image, but there is a large portion of the population who does not have that capability. They don't have that gift of being able to imagine. It's not an image in their head. It's words, it's sounds, it might be smells, but making the picture is not one of their gifts. It's not something that they can do. And that's okay. Because if you don't have that ability, that's okay. Then you utilize what you do have. It's like not all of us are going to be wonderful basketball players or sharpshooters. It's a gift. Some people are more gifted than others. Now, can we all, that's good, Yvonne. That's what I saw too. The white outfit with playing the guitar. All of us have these gifts. It's a matter of which gifts are stronger and what are we going to work on. Like any muscle, like I said in the beginning, like any muscle, it needs to be nurtured and worked with in order for it to expand. Does that mean that everybody is capable of being a medium? Using the word medium to mean someone who speaks to dead people, whether they're crossed over or whether they're ghosts. I don't think everybody has that talent. I think a lot of people have that talent, but I think that's a very specific talent to be honed. So some people, they see, and I'm going to differentiate between ghosts and spirits, because ghosts are people who have not left the earth. They're people without a body. So they leave their physical body, but their spirit is still here. Their soul still walks around. Very good. Some of us will only hear, some of us will sense. I, most of the time, don't see them. Some people, I had a friend who saw them like they were just anybody else. I mean, you walk in the room and she'd be talking to somebody sitting in a chair and there's nobody sitting in the chair, you know. Yeah. But if there's another sensitive in the room, you can feel that there was something in the chair. I might be able to hear what's in the chair, but she would see it so clearly that she couldn't tell a difference between people who were solid and people who were energy only, because that's the way she experienced it. Yes, oftentimes we will hear or see things before someone crosses. My belief and my experience is that people know before they die, even when it's a sudden, violent death. Even if it's a car accident or a murder or something like that. I've unfortunately had a lot of experience with that. And what I see from these people is that they will like tie up loose ends. They'll talk to people they haven't spoken to in a while. They'll say, I love you. They'll do things that are out of the norm for about 2 weeks before they cross, before they die. Because your spirit knows the contract, your spirit knows where you're going. It just isn't filtered into your consciousness necessarily. So that's where dead people fall. So a ghost is a person without a body. They have the same kind of insight that you have. They know what's in front of them. They know what they can see, but they can be a fly on the wall because most people can't hear them. So they can hear and see things that you can't. But they're not like all knowing. They don't know the future. They're not, they're nothing more than you are, except that they're invisible. They can be a fly on the wall. A spirit, on the other hand, can multi-locate, because once they've crossed over and you become part of source again, you are expanded. So your consciousness expands, and it can be in more than one place at one time. You have gifts. You can kind of see the way things are going a lot better. Now, my belief of the future is that it is not set in stone. There are some things that you signed up for, that this is going to happen at some point during your lifetime. But for the most part, that is something that most things are pliable. Most things you make a decision. We do have that self-guidance, and we do have those choices. If anybody tells you you don't have choices and that your decisions mean nothing, then run away from that person. Because even when I do readings, what I'm doing is I'm following the person's energy. Okay, so like when you do tarot, so when you do a tarot spread, that is how things are working out if the current energies persist. Then when you get to specific questions, you say, okay, specifically, well, is this job better or is this job better? Well, I can tell you what it's going to look like 6 months from now if you take this one or this one. One may be like really markedly better than the other because it leads you somewhere better. Or they might be the same, and it might be just up to you, like whichever one feels better. Or it might be better for you to stay where you are, or maybe there's something else coming up down the road, but I'm following your energy to see where it leads. And then the energy will branch off into different possibilities because we are in the realm of the possible. That is the void. We pull out of the void to create. That's where things come from. So our intention leads us forward. And then, yes, we are in the world with billions of other people. So all that energy has to coalesce. So if your energy is taking you in a certain place and you have 10 people who are going in a different place, a different way, that can knock you off. It doesn't mean that we're all so sovereign that nothing affects us. That's one of the reasons why if you have a lot of naysayers around you, then you're told, don't tell people what your plans are. So it depends on the kind of people that are around you. If you have somebody who's constantly telling you how stupid you are and that that's wrong and it's dumb and and they're just, or they're afraid of the future, don't tell them your plans because their energy will poison whatever it is you're trying to do. You want energy around you that's going to nurture. And if that means keeping it completely to yourself, that means keeping it completely to yourself. But hopefully we all have people around us who are uplifting, who are nurturing, who are supportive. That's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking to gain. And as you're more open and you're utilizing your energy better, you're growing your intuition, you're able to pull in people like that much more easily, and you're able to suss out who that might be. That doesn't mean that we can't be fooled. That doesn't mean that we never get into abusive relationships or that we are fireproof from like a bad love affair. It just means that we are better equipped to surround ourselves with people who are loving and supportive. Does it seem that those heightened abilities are genetic? A lot of times it does. It does seem that way. But every once in a while you get a wild card who was born into a family of people who have never touched anything to their knowledge. And suddenly they have this kid who can do all kinds of crazy stuff. And they have no idea what to do with them. So both ways work. You know, sometimes it is genetic. And I've seen a lot of readers like to put that, you know, they're 10th generation psychic and that kind of thing. I don't feel like that really makes a whole lot of difference. I call this my meat suit. Your meat suit is only part of the equation. Your soul is the bigger part. That's the energetic that's occupying the meat suit and utilizing it. But it will strip off the meat suit at some point and put on another one, or decide to just be completely energetic and not reincarnate again. So yeah, a lot of times in a family, you'll find that there's a lot of people in the family who are sensitive. So like my family, I'm Romanian. I'm Romanian, Italian, and Irish, but I'm on the Romanian side of the family. You're like, ooh, Dracula, Romania. Yes. So when I started doing this professionally, I got a lot of criticism because we were all raised Catholic. But as time has gone on, I've seen that several of my aunts and uncles and cousins they haven't gotten into it as much as I have, but they have learned how to really embrace their intuition and allow themselves to follow it. My father and I took a trip to go see my aunt one year before cell phones. Again, I'm old. And we drove up to Michigan from Philadelphia, 12 hours in the car. And we get there and he's like, do you have the address? I'm like, what? I thought you had the address. He's like, no, I left it on the table for you. And I'm like, no, I didn't pick it up. So I had never been there. My father, I think, had been to the house once, like 2 years previous. We didn't have her phone number. So we stop at a payphone, and back in the day of phone books, we're trying to look her up. Of course, she's unlisted. So we get back in the car, and I had this amazing car that was, if you ever saw Herbie the Love Bug, it was like my Herbie the Love Bug, except she was called the Integra. We get in the car, and my dad's like, all right, I'm going to drive and we're just going to go. And we're just going to focus on your aunt. We know we're going to get there. Now, my dad is not someone who ever practiced any of this stuff or did any of it, but he is first generation American. He's Romanian. This is what we're going to do. Okay, we get in the car, we get back on the highway, he takes this exit, we go up this street. Now, mind you, it's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. We come up this street and we see a light go on and my aunt's silhouette stretching in front of the bay window in the living room. Wow. We were blown away. We went right there. And my aunt's like, yeah, I don't know why I woke up, because her boyfriend was waiting to let us in. She goes, but I woke up and I felt like I had to go to the front window. And that's how we knew that was exactly the house. So there's all these synchronicities and all these connections. And a lot of people kind of just discount it. They don't really embrace it because it's something that a lot of people are afraid of. I've had more people than you can imagine tell me, I don't want to know the future, I'm afraid. Well, if you see what the landscape looks like, you're more apt to make the most of it. If you see that there's, pitfalls and cliffs and, rapids ahead, you can prepare yourself for that and then you can get through it better. It doesn't mean that that's never going to happen, but you're more prepared for it. You're ready to take on that challenge. And it allows you to rise above and really do what you need to do to move forward. So there's so much to intuition and your psychic abilities. Yeah, a lot of people are afraid of embracing it. And that's something we need to, if we are going to embrace it, we can't allow other people's fear to hold us back and stop us from being and doing everything that we can be. And really embracing our power, because it is powerful. It is powerful once you start seeing those synchronicities hook up and you can really tell when you're in the flow, and you can tell when you fall out of it too, because it's like being in a river and it kind of sweeps you along, but you have some control. It's like being in a canoe in the river, you got your paddle and you can kind of go around the rapids and stuff. It's not like you're in complete control because it's a river, but if you need to get to the side, you can. But you can feel when you fall out of that flow, like boom, all of a sudden you're at a standstill. What did I do? How do I get back there? And that's something that comes with the awareness that is really embracing your intuition. Because when you get used to being in that river, when you get used to being in the flow, it's extremely uncomfortable to be out of it. It's a lot more painful to be out of the flow than it is to be in it. Because when you're in the flow, there's a sense and a knowledge that you are taken care of, that you are supported, you are nurtured. I can honestly say that I have never gone through a period of my life where I have felt lonely. I have always been able to feel the current. I've not always been in it, but I've always known it was there. So as we move forward, that's something to look forward to. It doesn't matter whether I am in partnership or I'm not in partnership. It doesn't matter whether I'm around friends or I'm completely alone. I feel the fullness of everything that's around me. So I never feel alone. So where was I going with that? So as we move forward and we move into the actual classes, there will be times where we're going to talk about these things and do them like surface stuff. And then if you want to deep dive into things, there will be chances to really deep dive. For instance, I do the crystal classes the second Saturday of every month. In the crystal classes, we deep dive into specific crystals for specific things. As we're going through the course, we're going to talk about crystals in general, and we're going to do a couple basic ones. We're going to bless them, programming, and that kind of thing. and then we're going to move on. So if you want specifics on crystals, taking the secondary class is something that you may want to do, especially if you see something come up that you are interested in. The other thing is, like I have a Foundations of Prosperity class coming up, where in that class we're going to go back and see, like, what are our fears surrounding prosperity? Are we self-sabotaging? And how do we remove that? How do we get past it so that we can have the abundance that Spirit promises us all around us, and that support? I'm also teaching graphology, which is reading handwriting. So it will be reading signatures. It'll be a one-night thing, but I'll teach you in that night how to tap into reading a signature. And there's different steps to it. But once you get it, then you're like, ooh, then you can look at anybody's signature and real quick get an intuition, like know their personality, or at least know what they're trying to show as their personality. Things always slip. Looking at a full handwriting thing, gives you a better idea, but looking at somebody's signature is good also. So doing different things like that, we're going to practice with different things to see what is it, in what way are you picking up information? Do you hear more? Do you see more? Is it an imagination? Do you get words? Do you just know? Is it a feeling? Is it a full body thing? So that way we'll be practicing different things like that and see, try to develop whatever it is your main gift is. So right now, what I would like to do is just take a moment and do a quick white light meditation, and we'll see where Spirit takes us with it, so that we can look at where we're at and just give you a little taste of some of the things that we'll be doing. Is everybody up for that? Okay. All right. Does anybody need a break before we start? No? Okay. I like to start when I go into the meditation time or whatever, if I have a bell around, I collect bells just for anybody who wants to get me a gift. I like to start with my bell. So which should we do? Should we do the crystal or should we do the brass? Excuse me, the crystal. Okay. All right. Take a deep breath. Hold it and release. Take a deep breath. Hold it and release. As we move through the meditation, you may lose my voice, and that's okay. You don't need to hear exactly what I'm saying. Just follow the energy. Take a deep breath and relax. You're in a meadow. There's green grass all around you. Past the grass is a forest, a brook. You could hear it in the distance. You feel the warm, golden sunlight kissing the top of your head. You feel the cool embrace of the wind. You feel the solid ground beneath you. and a bit of dew left on the leaves at your feet. You hear the rushing of the water over stones, washing up against the storm. You hear birds singing. Take a deep breath and relax. You smell the beautiful fragrance of the earth and the flowers. We walk towards the brook. And we see the water flowing swiftly past, with the sunlight still warming us and the wind still embracing us and the earth still supporting us. We step onto the shore and feel the mud beneath our feet, cool and embracing. It's a pleasant sensation as the water laps over our toes, teasing us, beckoning us to come in for a swim. The sunlight touching us on the tops of our heads, warming our hair and our shoulders. We feel it on our back and our torso. Makes the water even more enticing. We wade in as the water sloshes higher and higher on us. We feel the pull and the embrace of the flow. We go in to where the water is up to our waist, and we lean back and let our feet move in front of us, and we are swept up into the current. We are comfortable, safe. We are supported by the water, the wind, the sun, and the land. Mother Earth has us in the palm of her hand. The water so cool and wet, raising us up and moving us down the river in the flow, with the sun beating on our face and the front of our bodies. Our toes are warm, the backs of our legs are cool. You hear the music of the mother. Just relax and allow yourself to be in the flow, to move forward with the water. We feel it picking up speed. We are confident that we are safe. We are excited and happy. It's as if the water not only supports us, but flows through us. We feel ourselves melt into the water as we become a bright light bobbing on top of the waves, rushing down the river. We are a part of it. And as we move and we expand, we feel at one with nature and the light and the love. We can do anything and be anywhere. We feel ourselves expand out. We extend ourselves and realize that suddenly we have wings and we lift ourselves up out of the water. Beautiful, majestic bird, we soar. We ride the waves of the wind. The motion carries us ever further. Up, up, so that we can see the curve of the earth. And yet still, we breathe deeply. The wind supports us. We are powerful, light, at once huge and small. We are a part of everything around us. And as we circle and soar, with the sun on our backs and the wind beneath our wings, we can see the shore and the river and the flow, and we are still a part of it. With our eyes, we can see far below us. With our ears, we can hear. With our nose, we can smell. There is a scene taking place. We see our old body. Our old body, who we're still connected to, but separate from. Is speaking. They are embracing someone you love dearly, someone who has a message for you. They're so happy to be with you. And they tell you a secret. They give you a gift. And in the blink of an eye, the image shimmers and you're back fully in the bird. And you circle around back to where you entered the water. And you land on the side of the shore. You feel the mud beneath your feet. You feel the water tease your toes as you form back into your human self, filling your body, carrying with you the gift and the message that you received, carrying with you the sense of freedom, power, and lightness of being, carrying you with you the river and the flow. And as you come fully into your body, you feel the heat of the sun on the top of your head, the caress of the wind, the support of the earth, and the lapping of the water. And you turn around and you go back into the field. And you find yourself sitting back in your home, fully in your body, knowing that you are fully embraced by Spirit, by Mother Earth. Come back into consciousness. Feel your feet on your floor. Smell your air. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Okay. So, did anybody get any messages? How you feel? Let me know in the chat box. And then I'm going to stop the recording so that we can have a private discussion. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you very much for being with us today. I hope you enjoyed your journey. And I hope that you meet me at Exploring Your Intuition. You can find out more information about me and the things I'm doing at GeralynStJoseph.com or at parastudy.org. I'm also on Meetup. I host 3 different meetups: Parastudies, Coffee and Conversation, and also Mystery, Mystics, and Metaphysics. For now, have a good day. Blessings and mahalo.